Hey, I think we're on. Can you let me know in the chat if that worked? Can you guys hear me? There we go. Excellent. Good. I imagine Crowdcast and a lot of the other video platforms are getting crushed right now, so hopefully this will stay up. If it doesn't stay up, I will finish recording and post a video later, either on YouTube or Crowdcast or somewhere. And we can also try and jump over to Zoom and give that a try if this becomes difficult. So keep me posted in the chat if it flakes or freezes, and if refreshing your browser doesn't work, we'll try and do something different. Well, welcome everybody. I've got people from all around the world in the chat room. That's very exciting. And the plan for today is I've got some slides prepared. I'm going to run through the slides and touch on some of the big points that actually my wife and I talked last night about, thinking back over the past 10 years, what things we've done to kind of make working from home with kids there constantly work. And and I think there's probably some valuable stuff that'll be in here for everyone. All right, so I'm going to switch over to slides. And you should be able to see a big black slide. Okay. Oh, one last thing before I get going. I'm going to stop and take questions. And if you have specific questions, I probably won't see it in the chat because there are quite a few people here. But if you put it in the Ask a Question panel, or it might be called the Q&A tab, depending on your interface, I'll jump to questions periodically in there so we can, get your questions answered. I know there are a few people like me who have been working from home with kids for a long time. And I don't know if they were able to make it or not, but they emailed me in advance and said they'd try and help out with questions in the chat too. Okay. So I'm going to start off with a couple of caveats. One is that these tips obviously are specific for what we did with our two kids. Everybody's kids are totally different. I've got a million nieces and nephews, and I go to a karate school where there are hundreds and hundreds of kids. And I recognize that every kid has different behavior. They respond to different things. So this is just what worked for us. And maybe, if your kids are, I'm sure your kids are very different, you can maybe modify it to suit your needs. Another thing is homeschooling is different probably from the situation that y'all are in. So I would imagine that most people on the line have been working from home, or maybe haven't been working from home, but their kids have been either in school or daycare or something like that. Our kids have been home like from day one, so that we never had like a transition phase from where they went from school or daycare back to the house, like it was a weekend or something. So our situation is a little bit different in that regard. And I'm going to have some tips about kind of orienting them to the reality of being at home instead of school or daycare. The other thing is that quarantine's different than just regular working from home, because you can't have your in-laws come and watch the kids, or have them, have a babysitter come over, or put them with a friend and take turns with another friend who works from home, where, 3 days a week they watch your kids, and 3 days a week you watch their kids. So there's some things that we've done over the years that were a little bit different and don't really apply in this particular situation. Okay, so I'm going to go through tips and tricks that work for us. Then we can have a conversation about it, and I'm going to answer Q&A. If you have specific questions for me, put them in that Ask a Question tab, as I said before. But in the meantime, feel free to have a conversation in the chat. I won't see that with the slides up, but folks can hopefully help each other in there. All right. So step one, this is probably going to sound obvious, but you do want to talk to your kids about the situation. This is going to be new for them, and I'm just making lots of assumptions here, but I'm going to assume that your kids are used to seeing you home on the weekend, and perhaps you're on your phone or your computer on the weekend from time to time. And perhaps on the weekend you're watching Netflix, or you're looking at Instagram on your phone, or you're doing stuff that's non-work related on your phone on the weekend. So you need to explain to them that this is not a Saturday, it's not a weekend, and that, you're doing work, and that work is different than what they're used to on the weekend. So I would recommend setting up visual cues. We've done this with our kids, even though they're used to us, all the time. So things like having headphones on could be an indication, or being in a particular spot could be an indication, or having your glasses on, or some kind of visual indicator. Even if you make something funny, like, you put some stuffed animal near you, have some kind of visual indicator that they understand that, mommy's working or daddy's working right now. And it would be best if they either, if they didn't interrupt at that particular moment. The other thing is, at a certain, of course, all this stuff is age dependent, but at a certain point, kids don't really understand why you're working at all or what working is, especially if they're not used to seeing you working. If they just leave in the morning, or you take them to school in the morning, they're not seeing you working. You might never have talked to them about like what work is or why you do it. So, let them know that because you work, you get money, and that gets your family things that they like. So maybe that is toys, depending on their age, or video games, or the house, or whatever it is that they value. You can equate those two things and use that as leverage to kind of get them to respect the fact that you need to be not interrupted while you're working. Okay, the next step is, if you have a spouse or a partner, I'm going to have some tips. And if you don't have a spouse or partner, I'm going to have some tips. So let's start with spouse. If you do have a spouse or partner, I would really recommend setting up shifts. So if one of you is more of an early bird and one of you is more of a night owl, kind of like overlap your day so that there's kind of some time at the beginning when one person is covered. So like one person's watching the kids in the morning, and then one person's watching the kids at night. And maybe there's like 4 or 6 hours in the middle when you're both working and trying to wrangle the kids. But cut out or sort of block out some time where one spouse is responsible for the kids and the other one isn't, so that each person could have maybe maybe between 1 and 3 hours a day where the other person is essentially babysitting the kids, and the person who's doing the work can get to those things that require deeper focus and can't be done in 5, 10, 15-minute increments. So set up those shifts, and then here's how to manage them. You want to put in place an ironclad do not disturb policy. So if you're babysitting the kids or you're watching the kids and your partner's working, do not interrupt them. So imagine that they're not even home, and ask yourself, if something happens, because things are going to happen, somebody's going to smash their finger in the cabinet or something. Ask yourself, would I call my spouse or partner home from work to deal with this? They probably not. This almost never happens, that one parent can't on their own handle a situation with the kids. I can think of two, and I probably shouldn't tell this story. I can think of a couple where, kid was sick and, whatever, threw up in their bed, and the stuffed animals it's just a giant mess. Okay, that's one thing, but hopefully it's not happening to you very often. And the parent who's watching the kids, just deal with it, and you can tell the other person about it later. It's fine. Now, the flip side of this is when you're in the basement or the home office or the bathroom or wherever you're working to be by yourself and focus in this sort of shift your shift, you're probably going to hear things happen that you might want to devote your attention to, but just trust your partner to deal with it. If you hear a smash and screaming or a fight or something, just ignore it. They can handle it. Trust them. If they can't handle it, they'll come and get you. That'll be the rule. So it's really about adhering to these, just sort of respecting these shifts and treating it like you're not there. If somebody broke a glass or the dog threw up or whatever, just keep working. This is your time to keep working. Try and ignore it and just, decide or agree that that's normal. It's not rude for you to not come up and say, hey, is everybody okay? You're not supposed to do that at this time. The single parent version of this. All right. So this is tough. I admit, all of this is tough, but this is really hard. So if you're a single parent and you've got a kid newly at home, sleep time is when you're going to be doing your deep work. When that kid is asleep, that's your chance. So you either sleep or work. Don't watch Netflix. Don't go on Instagram. Don't go on YouTube. You sleep or you work when that kid is asleep. If you're done with all your work and your to-do list is completed, then you can watch Instagram or go on Instagram or watch YouTube. But for this time period, you have no other option. You can't have a babysitter come in. You can't have your neighbors watch your child. So when they're asleep, that is your time to do any tasks on your list that require like uninterrupted time. So I would keep a list, and we're going to talk about this more later, but I would keep a list of those things. So when you have that moment when you're like, oh, I think they're asleep, or you put them down and they finally calm down, then you go straight to that list of deep work stuff and you pick the top thing off that list and you do that then, because this is your chance. Okay, for when they're not sleeping, you want to set up your phone for maximum productivity. So whatever it is, if you're in email a lot, or you're in Slack a lot, or you're in Zoom a lot, or Google Docs, figure out how to use that stuff on your phone. It's not as productive, but I can tell you I've written probably thousands of emails with, a toddler asleep on me with my other hand. You can get things done in that situation if you have your phone set up with the apps you need to do those things, and you know how to use the apps. So you want to get familiar with them. So you're not going to be, you're probably going to end up doing a lot of work on your phone that you would rather do on your laptop when you're in this sort of single parent with kid at home situation. So use your phone to the most you possibly can. Interruptions. All right, I've got 3 big categories of interruptions coming up. But the general concept is, if you're used to working from home alone with no kids, or you're used to working at work in an office with no kids, you're in for a rude surprise or rude awakening. Your day is going to get chopped up into much smaller pieces than you're used to. It's okay. It stinks at first, but it's okay. You can do it. You can do work in smaller chunks. You just break you look at the tasks that you have to do, and there are certain things that you can do in 5-10 minutes. Other things are going to take you 2 hours of focused concentration. You do those when your spouse is watching the kids or when the kids are sleeping. The stuff that is all that little administrative stuff that just requires a reply or a quick phone call or something like that, you're going to be doing that in little chunks during the day, probably from your phone. Maybe not. Could be from your laptop, but could also be from your phone. So the first kind of interruptions I've got here are kid interruptions. And there's probably there are very few things that will infuriate me faster than being unnecessarily interrupted when I'm in a deep focus state. It's like I can't even control it. I just see red immediately when I'm like way into something, and dad, or my phone beeps, or the FedEx guy rings the doorbell. It's so upsetting. So just take a step back. It's going to happen. It happens when you're working from home, especially with the kids. This is going to happen. So just take a deep breath. Try not to blow up at whatever the interruption is. If it is a kid, you've already talked to them about this, and I know this is age dependent, but you've talked to them about this previously. Say, remember, when I have my headphones on, mommy's working, so you can't interrupt me, or we're going to have no money for the toys that you want. Like that. It sounds kind of mean when you say it like that, but connecting it into their world and things that they care about has worked for us. Let me just put it like that. So try and correct the behavior in the moment without blowing up at them. Just try and be a little bit rational and connect it with something they care about or they can understand. The other thing is help them help you. So what does that mean? You might not be used to this, especially if you haven't had your kids at home, but you want to do things like teach them how to get their own drinks and food, snacks. Leave the crayons or the Legos or the coloring books or the iPad. Leave all that stuff out. Don't be putting that stuff away constantly. Leave it out so that they can get distracted and get into something, whether it's crafts or ABC Mouse on the iPad, or YouTube Kids on the iPad, or they just want to eat something. This could be an opportunity for them to grow a little bit and say, hey, guess what? Now you're allowed to get your own squeezies, or get your own yogurt drinks, or get your own water. If they're too little for that, set the stuff up in advance in a way that they can just grab it without interrupting you, and sort of treat it like guess what? You're sort of like a promotion, like, oh, you're a big kid now, you can get your own water, that kind of thing. So, yeah, and I said this already, but at the end of the day, I wouldn't spend a lot of time, like we have this one friend who would literally count the Legos at the end of every day to make sure none were lost. Don't do that. Don't even worry about putting the stuff away. You're in a weird phase, who knows how long this will be, but we're in a weird phase where we can't get outside help, and we have to maximize our productivity to keep everything moving forward. So set your priorities. Do you really need to clean up all the Legos and count them before you put them away? No, probably not. Do you need to have everything, all the crayons put away and all the coloring books put away? No, probably not. So if you really can't stand chaos in your environment, maybe pick a room that's going to be the school room or the daycare room, and just have that be relatively chaotic. Where I don't mean chaotic. I mean, just like leave the stuff out so the kid can get the stuff themselves and kind of move from thing to thing as they see fit. So if they see mommy has headphones on, they can go grab a coloring book without having to ask for your help. All right, other interruptions. So this is getting into sort of productivity land. So it's probably always a good thing to think about. But in this phase, you really have to maximize your productivity and prioritize things that are important versus maybe less important, like nice to have things. So first of all, I do this anyway, but I would recommend, if you're not used to doing this, put your phone in do not disturb mode 24/7. Everybody is in the house with you or in the apartment with you. There's not an emergency that you're not going to know about. So put your phone in do not disturb mode and check it periodically. Don't let it interrupt you. You can just, if you put it in, I don't know what it's called. I have an Android phone. There's just like a do not disturb button. You still get all of the banners. It just doesn't beep or vibrate or make any noises. So when you get to a point in time where, I don't know, you're trying to get the kid down, or she's falling asleep on you, you can scroll through your notifications on your schedule, not the phone's schedule or someone else's schedule, and deal with the ones that you need to and dismiss the ones you don't. So yeah, the phone is a massive source of interruptions. By the same token, I would say delete all social media apps from your phone. You don't need them. They're not doing anything for you, and you can check them manually. You want to put a little friction between you and social media or entertainment apps like YouTube and Netflix. So just delete them. You can still go to them in a web browser. It's a little bit harder, which is, I think, a good thing, and they can't notify you. So it's going to cut down on the noise and the notifications and the interruptions. So just get that stuff off your phone. If you have to use social media for work, do it on your laptop force yourself to do it on your laptop or through the web browser on the phone. And I think that's a good balance between the two things. Okay, the third thing here is have this prioritized central to-do list, one list where everything goes, so that when you do have either your shift, when you can work while where your partner's watching the kids, or when the toddler is asleep, go to that list and pull off one of your deep work things that's going to take 2 hours or something, and get on that immediately, instead of, that. Here's what can happen to, at least happens to me. I'm watching the kids all day, they're crazy, and then somehow it starts to quiet down and calm down, and I'm just like, oh, and you feel that there's like silence, or there's like, you feel like this relaxation. There's a strong temptation to veg, strong temptation to like, oh, you know what I need to do? I need to check my Twitter feed. Like, you don't. So when you feel, and if you've deleted social media from your phone and you find yourself scrolling, looking for that Twitter icon or that Instagram icon, like, oh, what am I doing? First you're like, I can't find it. And then you're like, oh yeah, what am I doing? I should go to my to-do list. So whatever the hot bar is on your phone, like on my phone, it's an Android phone, it's down at the bottom, there are these like main applications. I keep the very first one in the, hotbar is my to-do app. So whenever I find myself like scrolling through my phone looking for something to do and catch myself, it's right there. I just tap on that and my to-dos are right in front of me and I pick something off of that list and do it. It's just a general productivity tip, but I think, because you're going to be getting interrupted so much with kids at home, then I think any kind of productivity gains that you can get are super, super helpful. So one more slide and then we're going to take questions. This one is taming email. So this is really an extension of other interruptions, but email, I think for a lot of people, is still a big deal. Your email inbox is basically a place where the world can just give you to-dos. It's a really bad situation. So what I would do, or this is what I do, I've done this for years, is I batch process my inbox. My notifications are off. I don't hear when something chimes. I just know that I always have email. I have a mailing list with 8,000 people on it. They're sending me email. So if they reply to anything, I'm going to have like hundreds of emails at any given time. The different emails that are in there have wildly different importance levels. It could be a notification from Crowdcast that my event is going live or that someone joined an event. Or it could be someone who's trying to give me money, like a new client. So there's a big difference between those two emails. And you want to get everything out of your email inbox as quickly as possible, or at least triage it. And the way that I do this is to do it periodically. I don't go in there for onesie-twosie emails. I'll wait like at least half a day. I don't go into my email repeatedly. Just wait. Maybe it's, you just fed the kids and you've got 10 minutes. It only takes 10 minutes to triage your inbox. You just scroll through, archive anything that doesn't immediately require your attention or is not spam, but stuff that's just notifications. Just archive all of that. Find the stuff that you can reply to very quickly in the moment, like in under a minute, answer those. And then the rest of the stuff, move it to a to-do list or just leave it there until you have time to put it on a to-do list. So you're left with the important ones on a to-do list or still in your inbox, depending on how much time you had. Another thing is never reply instantly to emails. There's something about email that it just begets more email. So if you get into a conversation chain, almost like an instant messaging back and forth with someone in email, it's a disaster. So just wait. Don't reply to stuff instantly. Obviously, if people are used to getting instant answers from you over email, you need to set their expectations appropriately. Maybe you could move them into Slack. It took me a little while, but I moved all my clients into Slack and out of email. So I said, hey, if you need instant contact with me or you need faster contact with me, do it in Slack. I only check email once a day at 5 p.m. So if you need a quick answer, ask me something in Slack. If you need to send me an email, that's fine, but just know that I'm not going to get to it right away. And over time, I got everybody into Slack. Because I don't know if this is going to be appropriate in this particular situation, but for you. But maybe you could talk to your employer if you have an employer, or if you work for yourself, you can talk to your clients and say, to maintain a high level of productivity during this situation, I'm just going to check email once a day. And if you need to get in touch with me more quickly, you can either text message me or if you use Slack, hit me up in Slack. The benefit of this, that might just sound like I'm moving the interruptions to Slack instead of from email. The thing with Slack or something like that is that the whole world cannot get into your Slack. The whole world can get into your email. So it's a huge difference, because if you're constantly getting these ding, 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 ding in your email, and 90% of it is noise, that's going to be very distracting. So if you take any of the high priority stuff and move it into a place where they need permission to contact you, like Slack, or text messaging is probably, technically it's not permission based. Someone could guess your phone number, but I would say something like Slack or WhatsApp or an internal, whatever internal systems that your company or clients use, move it over there, Basecamp, whatever. Move it over there and just get out of your email, because the email is a massive time suck, massive distraction. And it can also, when you're in that period of the day when the kid is asleep or your spouse is watching them, it can be a distraction where you're just vegging out going through your email, and it's just a huge waste of time usually. Okay, so now I'm going to jump to questions. That was everything I had. So we're going to jump to questions. There's a lot of things that I imagine we could talk about, but I wasn't sure what mix of people we were going to have. So I figured we'd just handle that stuff in questions. Okay. So I do have a couple of questions in here. First one. Can you go a little deeper into your email triage process? Can you go over your process again in a bit more detail? Sure. So email, first of all, I went through a phase where I just, in my email signature, it said I only reply to email once a day. So if you need a quick response, contact me through Slack, or here's my phone number, you can text me. So that was sort of the expectation setting phase. But, over a relatively short period of time, I got all my clients moved into Slack, where they needed permission to contact me, permission to get in there. And the whole wide world couldn't just interrupt me. And then once I would, at 5 o'clock or whatever time I would go and triage my email, I would go in and there'd be a lot of times 200 emails in there. And I would do it on my laptop, and I learned the keyboard commands for Gmail. And I would just, I'd be in the inbox, and I'd go to the first one, and you can scan really quickly and see what's important and what's not. So I just use the down arrow and the X key to select them, like down arrow X, and I would X whichever ones I didn't need to actually read. So they would be like, and what the X button does is it checks them. So you can go through 200 emails very quickly and probably get rid of 80% of them. And then you just, after they're all X'd, you hit the E button and it archives them for you. So you're not deleting them. It just puts them in the archive so that, you feel like, so you don't have any like FOMO. You can like, oh, in my copious free time, I'll go check those later, but you never do. And then what else? And then the remaining ones. So like, let's say I have 10 left that I have to get back to. I'll go to the first one and say, I can tell who it's from, usually like how important it is. So I'll go to the first one and say like, this is important and it's going to take me some thought. So I copy the link to that actual message, the direct link to the message, and I put it in my to-dos, and I'll say something like, get back to Nate about this server issue ASAP. Okay. And I'll put that in my to-do list, and then I'll archive that email. Later, when I get to that in my to-do list, I just click right on that link and it takes me right to the message. So I've got the context of the message. So it's not deleted. It's just I archive everything. I never delete anything. So that was if there's an important email in your inbox. If there's a quick answer, somebody just has a quick question and it's going to take me less than 60 seconds, I'll just blast it out right there, send it, and then archive the initial message. You can crank through tons and tons of email like this. The problem with email is when you're going into your inbox every time it dings and going through this whole process on a very short list of things, maybe 10 emails. It doesn't make sense to triage 10 emails. But if you have 100 emails, then it's great. It's very productive. A couple of notes. Here's the next question. Do you have a different professional telephone number from a number you give to family and friends? Can clients call you and interrupt you? The professional number is not on Do Not Disturb. The answer for me is I did, but I never really used it. I did have a separate number that I gave out just because it was kind of like my spam number. I'd give it out because I knew like people would telemarket to that number, but I never really use it. People don't call me. I don't answer here's another thing. You can train people to not call you by not answering the phone and never getting back to them. I know that is not the situation you're in. If you're in a situation where your clients expect you to pick up the phone or your boss expects you to pick up the phone, I probably would give them a special number that's hidden from the whole wide world if you're getting a lot of telemarketing calls on your main number. Because if you're getting a lot of telemarketing calls, it's the same problem as inbox, your email inbox, where every time it dings, like first of all, you can't shut it off. And every time it dings, then you have to look at it. So you can be getting interrupted for all these garbage calls when, 10 garbage calls for every one important call. So that's a drag. Another thing that has been really helpful to me with that business number is that I get transcripts. I'm an Android user. I don't know if this is true for everyone. I don't know about iOS, but I get transcripts of any voicemail, so I can see immediately if it's worth looking at or not looking at. But the phone number thing is definitely an issue, the same kind of issue as email, where like the whole world can get it. So if you absolutely have to take phone calls, then I would set up a brand new dedicated number if you're getting a lot of spam calls on your regular number, and distribute that to the people who you think really need it. So it's it's like a clean number. So if that number rings, you have to pick it up. Brett Brown. Also, how do you manage voicemails when robocalls are a thing? Yeah, I just get transcripts of everything in my email inbox. So I just never answer the phone. And then when I'm triaging email, I go in and I'm like, oh, this is an important phone call. I'll get back to them. Here's another one. An observation. A huge distraction right now is the coronavirus itself, with news and information updating constantly. Things changing so quickly, and trying to stay abreast of the info while not getting totally sucked in. Yeah, I mean, this is a constant like social media overload thing. Everybody's different, but the way that we've done it is we've been cord cutters for like years and years. We don't have a TV on ever. Well, there's no TV. So any like entertainment or media that we watch is something we picked. It's not this stream of news coming at us. And even with YouTube, which we use quite a bit, we pay to have no ads in it, because the ads are where a lot of the problem comes from. Also with kids, if you have kids that are old enough to watch YouTube, the ads are like really inappropriate. So I just pay whatever it is, $9 a month or something for a family plan. And so no ads, because those will take kids down a rabbit hole that you don't want them to go down. Anyway, but back to the question. I don't believe that you need to be. You just don't need to be. I know there's a desire to constantly be hearing the latest news, but the media outlets are trying to keep. They get paid from your eyeballs, like they get paid from you clicking on stuff. So they want to cause you to keep coming back and get that dopamine hit or whatever. So I would batch this the same as anything else, where if you want to. I mean, do you really need to keep real-time updates going about something that you can do nothing about other than what you're already doing? So if you're self-quarantined and you're at home, you don't really need to know like what's happening in Italy at the moment. It might be, you might feel this pull to know, but you can't do anything about it that you're not already doing. But yeah, you want to keep on top of things to a certain extent. So I would just check, like, this would be one of those things I would batch do. Like I go check Twitter at some point in the day, but not constantly, and not in the app on my phone. I would take that off the phone. And, if I really need to know what's going on, I'll go to, for me, I get all my news from Twitter. So that's where I would go. Wherever you get your news from, go there and get your news and leave. That's my advice. You said you talk about 3 types of distractions. The third one was the email. Email I gave a special category to, because a lot of people use it for work, and it's a massive distraction. So it's kids and basically, yeah, other stuff, which is mostly the phone, and then email specifically was the third one. Oh, this is a good one. Let's see. What things have you been able to do with your kids while still being productive, like exercise? Let's see. What do we do with the kids? Tons of stuff. It's just constant flux. It's like piano and karate, and our kids now are 10 and 6. So what did we do yesterday? We did karate class at home. We usually go to karate class, but we did it at home yesterday. We did piano lessons, where I had like my 10-year-old teach me the song he was working on with his piano teacher, who's not going to be coming for the week. Going outside and playing with the dog in the backyard. If you don't have a backyard, you can still walk your dog. Just don't hang out with people while you're out there. What else? We did the workbooks. So we homeschool. We've got these workbooks that they go through, and we did pages in their workbooks. What else? We watched Frozen 2 just came out on Disney Plus. We watched Frozen 2. So, it was a mix of exercise and education and entertainment. What else? My 6-year-old and I did science in the backyard yesterday. We like tried to light leaves on fire with a magnifying glass, and we were looking at shells and stuff. So I don't know. I just kind of let the kids decide what they want to do, and I support it. And this is you're probably gonna think I'm a bad parent, but we don't really structure. We're kind of Montessori-like in that regard, I guess. We don't really structure what's going to happen. We just follow their interests and then support the interest as much as possible. What else did we do yesterday? There's a bunch of food stuff. Erica was home doing crafts and making food. She made what did she make yesterday? Bagels? Can't remember. So pancakes. So like the kids wanted to make pancakes. So the 6-year-old was like, I want to make pancakes too. So just like around the house stuff. Oh, we cleaned the basement so that we could do karate class down there. So there's some cleanup stuff too, chores. Yeah. So that, it just sounds normal when I say it, but that's the kind of stuff. And then Ashley added in the comments here, in my experience, setting clear expectations with the kids on what their goals are is critical. Then they can be working on them to-do list while you are working yours. Yeah, okay, that's a great point. So we've got a blackboard in our dining room that's low enough that they can write on it. And I'll do that. I'll say the list of stuff: wash hands, brush teeth, comb hair, practice piano, do workbook. And then so they like to cross, just like adults, they like to cross things off their to-do list as they get through them. So yeah, it's normally I just do this on Saturdays where I'll write up a huge list on the blackboard of like the weekly chores and stuff that we're going to do for the day. And then we just spend the day going through them. And it's a mix of my stuff and their stuff. Here's a question. Presentation was great. Yeah, I wish I showed the right slides. Oh, well. Do you have any tips on bandwidth? With so many members logging into many sites, what would you recommend to prioritize bandwidth usage? This has happened occasionally. In fact, before this, I almost was like, hey, could everybody stop streaming music for the time being? So again, I think this is a communication thing. If you have a router that you can, set up these priorities to different devices, like we've got Google Wi-Fi, and you can set a priority to like this laptop, for example. We've never had to go there. I don't think we have particularly amazing bandwidth here, but maybe we do. Ashley says, I've been teleworking with kids for the last 12 to 15 years. I've invested in a bigger bandwidth connection. That said, if I'm going to be streaming or sharing for work, the meeting is critical. I brief my kids ahead of time. No Netflix or other online gaming during those times. Yeah, same thing. I brief before every time I have a phone call, my kids are used to it. I'll say, okay, guys, I have to do a phone call. It's going to be about an hour. Do you need anything first? And go through and, like if somebody's hungry, I'll get them the food. I'll, put the dogs out in the backyard so they can, get a little bit of run around and go to the bathroom. I'll, whatever. I'll just say, like, is everybody all set? Like maybe 10 minutes before the call, and then I'll do whatever needs to be done and then jump into the call. If we did have bandwidth problems, I would also say, like, yeah, don't go on Netflix or Disney Plus or YouTube or whatever until, just do something else for the time being. Oh, here's a good question. Is there a specific reason why archive email and not delete? Yes, there is. So I archive all my email. I don't delete it because I guess two reasons, really. One is that deleting it feels too final to me, and it might make me say, maybe I shouldn't delete this yet. I might need it, So let's say I get a lot of notifications from like Cloudflare or DigitalOcean that are kind of related to the infrastructure of my business, like the online cloud stuff. And there's almost no reason for me to read it, but I might want it to come up in a search later. So there's no reason for me to delete it, really. I've got infinite space. I noticed the other day I have like 365,000 emails archived. And will I ever go through them? Maybe not, but sometimes I search for things like it's business tax season. So I just recently, this morning, did a search for something from my accountant for the past couple of years. So it's nice to have that ability to search, and it sort of cuts down on that kind of anxiety that can come from like, do I really want to never see this again? I don't really want to be asking myself that question as I'm going through the triage. It's really like the question I want to ask myself is, do I really need to read this right now? If the answer is no, I'll archive it, and then it could potentially be come back in a search later. Question from Ashley: did you cover managing family expectations for your time while working from home? I think I did. I tried to. I think I understand what you're asking, but not sure. But yes, I did. Yeah, I talked about talking to your kids, setting their expectations, talking to your spouse if you have one, setting their expectations, and then coming to an agreement about, when someone's working, when someone's not working, like what the deal is. Just curious, what do you think about video games for kids? So again, bad parent. Everyone's going to think I'm a bad parent, but we have always been incredibly permissive with screens. So the kids could kind of learn how to navigate what they like and don't like, and kind of learn that on their own. It just seems like that's going to be the future. So having, obviously we guide them, and we would kind of pick different apps to put on their whatever device, iPads usually. So it's kind of limited in a broad spectrum, a broad way, but there are tons of really educational things for the iPad that we think I think are 100% fine, like coloring apps and stuff like that. And like, our kids still do other things that, like color in actual books and draw and play piano and karate and all this other stuff. So if we felt like they were getting overly sucked into a particular thing, then that might be an issue, but they tend not to be. Which is true. I don't know if it's just our kids. It's probably just our kids, but we're not really super rule people. So like, they can eat whatever they want. They've always been able to eat whatever they want, and they don't eat. We can barely get them to eat most of the time. So it's almost like sometimes I see, let's say people in my family who are really rigid about you can only eat this, and or you can only use this, or you only get 5 minutes of screen time a week, and it seems to create this like stronger desire for the thing that they can't have. When they can have it in an unlimited fashion, they're kind of like, whatever, I'm going to go play outside. So again, that's probably just our kids, or it's definitely not all kids, but our kids just really don't binge that stuff too much. My 10-year-old's starting to get a little bit overly into video games, so we might have to do something about that. But like younger than that, it's never been an obvious problem, that's for sure. And there are a lot of really good games and shows for the iPad. So just hasn't been a problem for us. Let's see. Sharing the Montessori type approach and the Blackboard with chores are great examples. Any other setups or systems you have around your home for organizing your kids and homeschool setup? How do the kids choose snacks? Are there pre-selected options for them? Every little thing is a choice right now, like shows. Seems to be a constant negotiation. Yeah, we just let them have whatever they want, pretty much. And that might be disastrous for some people, but they self-regulate quite a bit. Like the candy, we have a candy box that they can reach that's full. So, they just they want a mix of things. Like, I feel like I don't want to get too much into parenting stuff because everybody's different, but I would say give them access to as much stuff as they need. And if you're picky about what they eat, or maybe they're gluten intolerant or something, just give them full access to whatever they're allowed to have. And then there's no negotiation. It's like, have whatever you want out of this choice. Other setups around the house. Yeah, we have a huge craft cabinet in the dining room right next to the Blackboard, where they can open it up, and there's like 1 billion, crayons and coloring books and paper. Mostly they just want blank paper, and like crayons and stuff. What else? In the basement, we have like 10,000 Legos that are, easily accessible. That we have this giant thing called a swoop bag. We actually have 2 of them. They're full of Legos. And so there's this sort of semblance of order, because it's like this giant Santa Claus bag, basically. You just throw all the Legos in, and then it opens up all the way flat down like a sheet. So you can just kind of throw all the Legos onto the canvas tarp, and then it's got like a drawstring on the side that it pulls up like a huge laundry bag or something. What else? They have a little station where they can plug in their iPads if they want to play Minecraft. That's fine. If they want to watch YouTube Kids, that's fine. What else do they do? There are certain channels on YouTube that are fine, that they love. We used to, when they were smaller, we used to do a lot more YouTube Kids, and we'd let them watch things like the Nickelodeon Kids app is amazing. I think it's very educational. There's lots of good shows in there, and even shows that aren't educational in a pinch when you're on a call and you put them in like Teletubbies, or you put them in what was the other one? Yo Gabba Gabba, Sid the Science Kid. I love that show. So you can give those things to them, and if they're old enough, I don't know what age. I don't know at what age it's okay to start giving kids headphones, but at a certain point it is okay. And if you put headphones on them, it really is immersive. And, if it's an emergency and you really have to do a call and there's no one else around to help watch the kids, then that can be a saving approach. So I guess to finish this question, I would say that this might be an opportunity to give your kids a little bit more responsibility, but talk through that with them. Say, you're getting to be a big kid now. You're allowed to pick your own snacks and have them whenever you want. These are the ones that they can reach are the ones that are allowed. And it's not a negotiation. They just like take what they want when they're hungry. Your email management explains why I didn't get an answer from you. Yeah, well, aren't you worried that you're actually missing out on things when you archive emails without looking at the content? Yes and no. This is a good question. So yeah, I probably am missing out on things, but I have a to-do list of things that I know are important, and I'd rather get to the things that I know are important than things that might be important. So, if I have time, when my important stuff is done for the day, if I have time to like go through emails that are maybe important, then I'll do that. But I don't know. I mean, it's kind of like at a certain point, you have to decide how you want to spend your time. And if I know I have a list of important things to do, why not do those first? And then as I look through my email and I see like messages from people who I'm related to, or are clients of mine, or if it was my boss or someone I worked with, those are more important than, apologies if I didn't get back to you about something, but for whatever reason, I didn't notice your message. A lot of those messages, guess what? A lot of those people are going to email you again anyway. So they come back magically. If it's really important, they'll probably email you again. So am I worried I'm missing out on things? No, not really. I am missing out on things, but I'm not worried about it. See what I mean? There's a difference. Let's see. We thought this might be a good opportunity to get our daughters, age 9 and 7, to have some more responsibilities like make their bed, make up the kitchen, cook, put the clean clothes in the wardrobes, but they resist and we are uncertain how much to press them on that. What's the experience of others here? Are they too young? Are they too spoiled, perhaps? And then a comment. Offer an incentive program. For example, I've been successful in setting up a situation where we can get a streak going. For example, my daughter does her tasks 5 days in a row. She gets something. Once they have a streak, they'll be proud of it and will want to keep it rolling. Sometimes becomes gamification of life skills. Yep, this is similar to this. I mean, using our kids as an example, our 6-year-old and our 10-year are very different in this regard. And I also have different answers for this particular time period and in general. I kind of don't want to get into parenting stuff because everybody's totally different. But some things to think about might be how important. I don't want to go. I almost don't want to go here. We don't make we have the kids do chores. There are very few chores we make the kids do. There are really not that many. The ones that we do with them are the ones they kind of like doing. So, like our 6-year-old likes loading the dishwasher and turning it on. So like that, we kind of just follow their interests. And maybe we're raising really spoiled kids. I don't think so. But maybe we are. But kind of just follow their, look for things that they seem interested in for some reason and say, okay, time to do that. There are certain things that you have to force them to do that are important, but for us, the list of things we force them to do is pretty short list. So there's not a lot of there's not that much fighting about it. It's kind of like, hey, it's time to do this thing. Just go do it, And it's like it's usually none of them are like an hour-long task. It's usually like a pretty quick task. Here's another email question. So there are only 2 categories for email archive: unimportant emails and important, which you copy to your to-do list. Ultimately, everything just ends up in the archive, which you don't ever read again unless you're searching for something. Yeah, that's true. Ultimately, everything ends up in the archive. Like before this Crowdcast, like this morning, I had 0 emails in my inbox. 0. If you have 25,000 emails in your inbox, that is like a cognitive load that you do not need. There have been times when I've gotten behind on this sort of inbox 0 thing, and I just declare inbox bankruptcy and just archive everything unread. Just too bad. If it's important, it'll come back. But you just can't let that be hanging over you. I can't be productive if I have 300 unanswered emails in my inbox as if someday that are like a month old. I'm obviously not going to answer them. It's a month old. So I just archive them. There's and sometimes that makes someone mad. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe Eva earlier is angry with me, but I've got a list of things that I know are important and I know I have to get to. And I'm demonstrating through my behavior that I am not getting to these month-old emails. Why? It's just like a garbage heap of stuff that's making me feel bad. So I get rid of it and focus on the things that I know are important. All right, what's going on in the chat over here? Let's see. My wife will be going back to work now. I have a 4-month. Let's see. Turn this into a question. My wife will be going back to work, and I will have a 4-month-old and a 2-year-old. Any advice here? Wow. Okay, this is going to be hard. I'll just tell you right now. It'd be one thing, once we're past this phase, and you can maybe have in-laws or a babysitter, or you can trade off with a neighbor or a friend who's also working from home and alternate days. When you're isolated like this, it's going to be really hard. So this gets to the slide that you unfortunately didn't see about, what to do if you're a single parent especially with little kids. Sleep when they're sleeping. That is when you do the deep work that you need to do, or you sleep, one or the other. No Netflix, no YouTube, no nothing. You work when they're sleeping, or you sleep when they're sleeping. And once that's done, then you can go to these sort of then you can go, down a YouTube rabbit hole for fun. I don't know what you do. So that might be impossible for you to actually stick with. But yeah, I mean, it's really the only time. If you have to do, uninterrupted work for, hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, has to be while they're sleeping. So it's going to be hard. Eventually you're going to want to get help once you can have other people trade off the kids or get a babysitter or something. But for the time being, you need to treat their time sleeping as super, super important. That is your time to make hay. Let's see. Here's one question. My daughter's almost 2. How do I keep her occupied while I work without having to put a screen in front of her? I mean, I think Frank said the same thing. It's almost impossible. The thing to consider is that not all screens are created equal. The TV is, in my opinion, much worse than something like Sid the Science Kid in the Nickelodeon app, or something else educational in these apps. There's lots of good stuff in these apps, in my opinion. And my kids' brains aren't rotted. I don't know. Maybe we're creating monsters. I don't think so. But if you're in a tough situation, if you have no other adult in the house and you're watching a 2-year-old and you need to work, you're using screen. Like, I don't know what you're going to do without screens. I mean, you could also try audiobooks, podcasts. Like Sugar Crash Kids was a podcast we listened to a lot. Audiobooks of kids' books. There are other things you can do. I would try not to feel like a bad parent just because you're using an iPad to entertain your kid while you're trying to make money to keep a roof over their heads. So like, cut yourself a little slack there, I think is my advice. Oh, this is good. How have you explained an interrupted call to the person on the other end professionally? Um, this is a good one. I mean, the basic, I think right now we're actually in the best possible time for this situation, because you can be like, stuck at home. Sorry, like everybody's at home. What do you want me to do? It's a little bit obvious why it would be happening now. Um, in a normal situation, like where it's your personal choice to work from home with kids, and it's not something that's been imposed on you, then it's a little bit. I always treat it a little bit more delicately, and I just try and just address it with humor. I've seen all kinds of things happen. With other people. I've been on conference calls where like a closet door fell on a 2-year-old in the background, everyone was fine, but it's scary. Stuff like that's going to happen. I think it's going to be the new normal at some point. If you're nervous about it, you can make a joke at the beginning of the call, like, my 16-year-old dog is having health problems. I hope she doesn't interrupt me during the call, but it's possible. Or if you're on a conference call and you might be getting a delivery, like, hey, everybody, I might have to step away for 30 seconds to sign for something from FedEx, or, just an FYI, I'm watching my kid today. She should be fine, but if she interrupts, I'll make it as quick as possible. So I'd just say, like, as much transparency. I would just use a lot of transparency, whatever you're comfortable with. One thing that it looks really bad is if you're on a video call and like the kid comes in and you get like super angry at them. Like, don't do that. It's not good for the kid. It makes everybody else uncomfortable. Just be like, sorry. They can probably, if it's a video or they can hear the kid, that's obvious. Just be like, sorry, everybody, 1 second, put yourself on mute and deal with it as quickly as you can with, without freaking out, and try and get rectified. If you can't get rectified, just say, I'm going to have to reschedule the call. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, exactly, Brett. Yeah, outside of the current situation is just a lot of transparency and humor. Let's see. Looking for question marks. Time blocks. All right, cool. And we're right about at an hour. So again, I feel like an idiot for not showing the right slides. That's too bad. But they were pretty basic. It was just, a bullet outline of the stuff that I covered. So hopefully the audio was enough. But hopefully this has been helpful for someone, and look forward to keeping the conversation going. If you want to hit me up on Twitter, my username is Jonathan Stark. So we can keep the conversation going there. See ya.